What's going on, guys? It's Matt Marinoff, Real Estate Recovery Group. My co-host for today is Don DeRosa. Don and I actually know each other for, I want to say about 2 years, around 2 years or so. And I've been following Don on social media. I met Don through a mutual friend. And it's amazing how, people become friends, associates, maybe sometimes they do projects together. And Don, to me, is someone who is offering services to people and basically letting, I guess, people understand what their options are in the real estate world. And it's important, obviously, because, you know, especially in today's market, what's happening is that people are in sheer panic. The COVID-19 has people upside down. The fact that the lending practices are a little bit upside down, being able to pull equity out of properties, a little upside down. HELOCs right now, from what I understand, are non-existent. So there's a lot of things that are in play right now that are not being helpful. And people are scared, they're terrified. People that just got their new real estate licenses, newly real estate people that are coming into the real estate world that are questioning, hey, what's going on? Like, 30 days ago, real estate was kicking, and now we have all these different issues with trying to, qualifying people, getting them out to take a look at properties. And we're going to ask Don about Georgia. We're going to ask him about the market that he's in. Jersey, we're cranking them out. So, as far as, real estate concerned, there are bidding wars. Contractors, investors, empty houses, properties that are newly renovated, there's not enough of them out there. And if it was a situation where before, the COVID-19, they had their permits, they were working on it. So people were actually purchased properties, they're at a standstill and they're waiting. Or properties were purchased from the sheriff's sales or closed short sales or what have it is, stuff like that. So, Don has been in real estate for, quite some time. Some people might even call him Father Time because he's been doing it for so long. So he's a real estate investor. He's an author. He's a teacher. He's a coach. He's a national speaker. He's one of the past presidents of the Georgia Real Estate Investors Association, one of the longest running RIAs in the country. Okay. So Don's trained thousands of people, obviously, and help people become experienced real estate investors, helping them building wealth through technologies and techniques that he offers. And basically, he talks about different ways of creative financing, creative real estate.
I've been doing this now. I've been doing real estate now for the past 23 years, going on 24 now. I've bought and sold just about every type of real estate you can think of. My favorite is buying subject to or buying creatively, such as owner finance, subject to wraparound mortgages, all that stuff, all the stuff that I think we're going to head into. Mm-hmm. I've been teaching it for years. So that's me in a nutshell. If I switch over to here, this, I call us problem solvers, and you may or may not, you might want to switch me to full screen so people can see this. But if you think about, pardon?
I said, Roger that, go ahead.
So you think about this. This is how, is this a good deal? So let's take a look at this. You have a fair market value, a house that's worth $200,000. Now in your neck of the woods, maybe you add a zero to the end of that. I don't know. But in Georgia, this would be a typical, what I would call 1,800 square foot home. So you got a fair market value of $200,000. You've got a first of $145,000. Repairs of $5,000. So to get into this deal, to buy this deal, you got to come up with $150,000. Now, this is how most people think. Most people think, even agents think this way, is I've got to find a buyer that's willing to come up with $150,000. They have to be able to qualify for that. They have to be able to do all that. Or if I'm an investor, I have to come up with $150,000. or I have to have really good credit to qualify for a loan for that. And the truth of the matter is, so, you got a $50,000 profit and an ROI of 33%. That is your typical deal. And I always ask people, raise your hand if you think this is a good deal. Well, everybody raises their hand thinking it's a good deal, because who wouldn't want to make 50 grand and who wouldn't want to make 33%? But then the next question I give people is, do you have $150,000 to make this happen? And that's when most of the hands come down. Well, in a subject to transaction, you don't have to come up with the money to take over the first, meaning to pay off the first. You have zero. So all you're going to do is basically take over that loan subject to the existing financing. They're going to actually deed you the property. And all you're going to come up with is $5,000 for the repairs. So your return jumps, because all I'm bringing to the table is $5,000. My return jumps to 1,000% as opposed to 33%. And all I have to get now to bring to this deal to make it happen is $5,000 as opposed to $150,000. So if I'm an investor, that's a no-brainer for me, right? So let me explain typical ownership, and I'll do this quickly so we can get back to, but I thought visual aids are the best. In a typical ownership, when I buy a property, if I went down and I handed you, Matt, I handed you $200,000 cash, you're going to give me a warranty deed. That's going to give me ownership. And if I did that, that's all I would need to own that property and to walk away from that closing table, right? They'll give me a HUD statement. But generally, no note, no deed, no security instrument, nothing. But if I don't have $200,000, I got to go down to the bank and I got to borrow that money. They're going to give me the terms, and let's say I've got to borrow. I'm going to put some money down on this property, and I'm going to borrow $145,000 at 5%, 30 years, $650 a month, principal and interest. Well, when they do that, okay, they're going to make me sign a promissory note that spells out those terms, and they're also going to make me sign a security instrument or a deed which puts a lien on the property, right? So the first document, the warranty deed, that's ownership. These next two documents are a lien that gets put on the property. Now, depending on whether you live in a judicial state or a non-judicial state, depends on if there's a third document in there or not. But generally speaking, let's just stick with these two. That's your typical ownership. When the homeowner stops making payments and they drive around and they see one of my We Buy House signs, and they stop and they say, okay, here's all there is to a subject to transaction. Basically, what they do is the homeowner transfers the deed. They sign over a deed into my name. Okay? And that's it. And that's pretty much the process of a subject to. Now, there's a bunch of other paperwork that goes with that, and you got to make sure you know what you're doing. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. So that's what I've been doing for the last 20 some years. It is by far the most powerful technique in real estate today.